Hey fam, what's up? I want to make this a really short video just to tease the essay that I posted today. I want to talk a lot, this is my third take, and I'm trying to get it shorter. I did a 5 minute, and then I did a 4 minute, and then I did a 3 minute, and we'll just see. But the whole project here is to take the assigned gospel reading for this Sunday from Christian communities, read it through an authentically Jewish lens, do some interpretive work with that, write the essay, push it out, talk about it on a video. Today's essay is a 13-minute read according to Substack. Usually these essays come in around 3,000 words each Sunday, so that gives you a sense of the length here. 2,500 to 3,000 words is usually the amount of content that I push out each Sunday on these assigned gospel readings. Here's what's really interesting, and I hope this piques your interest into the actual project, which is to read this quote-unquote Christian material, but through a Jewish lens. See, the gospel accounts are Jewish. It's Jewish literature. There's no such thing as Christianity when these gospel accounts were written. You don't get anything that really is Christianity until like late 3rd into the 4th century of the Common Era. Maybe there's some divergence happening in the 2nd century, but really it's just a plurality of Jewish beliefs. There are some Jewish people who did follow Christ. There were some non-Jewish people who followed Christ. There were Jewish people who did not follow Christ. There's a real plurality of beliefs. Daniel Boyarin makes this case really effectively in his accessible book, The Jewish Gospels. So if you're interested in that, you should pick up that book. It's a great one. If you want other recommendations, drop me a comment and I'll give you some other recommendations too. But Boyarin's a great place to start in that book. Now, here's what's really cool about today's reading. It starts in Matthew 11, 16 to 19, and then I think like 25 to 30. It's like a split reading on Matthew 11, but Matthew 12 is really interesting too. And I like segue into Matthew 12 a little bit because it matters for law interpretation, which I think that this is all about the law. It always is in Matthew. Matthew is all about righteousness. Righteousness is about Torah observance. So Matthew really precisifies a lot of the Markan content. Matthew's got 75% of Mark's material, but it's expanded upon. It's clarified a little bit. And so Matthew's one of my favorite gospels to read because there's so much concern with Torah observance and clarifying the material in Mark. This opens with a description of John the Baptist as potentially demon-possessed, and then one of Jesus as a glutton and a drunkard, which I love that, right? But I think both of these are to remind the audience of death, and here's why. So to say that somebody is demon-possessed, well, in the 1st century, you're sort of following the ritual purity codes from Leviticus. And those ritual purity codes, ritual purity and impurity is like a force, like a material, like a thing in the world. It's not merely an idea, but it is like a pollutant that could contaminate others and that can be transmitted to others. And demonic possession is one of those forces of death. And then to describe Jesus as, quote, a glutton and a drunkard, this, I think, would remind the 1st century audience of a story from Deuteronomy about the rebellious son. This is in Deuteronomy chapter 21. You can look at verses 21, 20, and 21. There's a rebellious son who's brought in front of the town elders, and he is described as a glutton and a drunkard, and they stone that rebellious son to death. And so I think that the Matthean author here is trying to say, people say John is demon-possessed, and people say Jesus is a glutton and a drunkard. I think it's Matthew's author saying it is risky to follow these dudes, and people think that they will bring about death. And interestingly enough, both John and Jesus are put to death by Rome. And so that's kind of the case that I make to open up the essay for today. And I think that information that engages with the ideas of Levitical purity codes, that engages with the ideas that in the Torah around what you do with a glutton and a drunkard, etc., that plays to the 1st century audience that would be attending the synagogue to hear Torah read aloud. And certainly the ritual purity codes were adhered to in the 1st century, not merely because the gospel writers talk about them, not merely because Jewish literature, which the Gospels are Jewish literature, but not merely because extra-biblical other Jewish literature talks about them, but also because there are ritual baths that dot the perimeter of the temple in Jerusalem. This was just regular practice. And so anyway, all that is packed into this essay today, and I hope this teases that and piques your interest, but also, if nothing else, just shows you why it's really important to remind ourselves that the 1st century Jesus movement was thoroughly Jewish, thoroughly couched within 1st century Second Temple period Judaism. Okay, leave comments, find the Substack. I'm keen to talk about it as much as you want to. Peace.